Tomb Raider Legend is fucking awesome. It's one of the best Tomb Raider games I've ever played. It's so damn good that it almost replaces Tomb Raider 2 as my favorite Tomb Raider. I said almost, not quite. I'll get to that in a little bit though. Anyways, Legend kicks ass in almost every sphere imaginable. The primary reason being is that it has common sense written all over it. After Crystal Dynamics took over when Core Design was given the boot, an offensively rare, yet immensely welcome manifestation of wisdom found its way from the heavens to this terrestrial world that we call Earth and into the minds of the developers at Crystal Dynamics, because somewhere along the development line, they realized, hey, trying to recreate those tank controls and grid-like levels of the old PS1 games doesn't work. So out it went. And the result of this manifestation of wisdom was quite possibly the best thing that ever happened to the franchise, because we now have sharp, ultra-responsive, smooth as butter controls. For the first time, dare I say, in a Tomb Raider game, Lara finally moves and controls how she was originally supposed to, and how she was always projected out to be. A super athlete. Able to transcend the highest of ledges, the greatest of slopes, the widest of gaps, with minimal to no effort. Everything from the act of running, jumping, climbing, falling from a ledge, rolling, it's all fucking amazing like you wouldn't believe. In fact, it's so damn good that there's nothing I can do or say in this video to show you guys or tell you guys just how awesome this is. The only way you can ever truly understand is to go play one of the 5 PS1 Tomb Raider games, it doesn't matter which, they all control the same, then go play Angel of Darkness, then play this game. That's the only way you'll understand. But trust me when I say this, the controls are that fucking good. And we've got plenty of room to move around too, as the level design is equally fantastic. Even though we spend a considerable amount of time in tombs in Legend, they all still manage to feel open and expansive and carry this aura of mystery and wonder without feeling desolate or claustrophobic. It really was a fresh new take on Tomb Raider that still holds up to this day, and it's further complemented by the return of puzzles. Big puzzles. Taking up the entirety of a very large room, sometimes even multiple large rooms. We get about 1 for each level, sometimes 2. And they're just awesome. That's all I can really say about them without spoiling them for you guys. Now the second piece of common sense, and one that I was immensely happy about, is the return of Lara's home. This is the part where these dark clouds are split by a giant ray of light, and the Archangel Tyrael from Diablo 2 comes down with a copy of this game, and some divine music is playing in the background. I know that sounds stupid, but that's exactly what went through my mind when I first saw this option at the main menu. I clicked on it without even thinking about it, and spent like the first 2 hours in there. And it turns out it's also a pretty damn good reimagining too. It doesn't quite hold a candle to the original, but considering that there hadn't been an iteration of Lara's home in a Tomb Raider game for 8 years up until this point, I sure as hell wasn't complaining, and I'm still not. Also making a comeback are secrets, which can be found to unlock a bunch of mostly useless shit, such as backstory on the characters that you'll never read, concept art you'll never look at, and extra costumes you'll never try on. With the exception of the silver secrets. They unlock upgrades for Lara's pistols. Which, by extension, gives us the first legitimate reason since Tomb Raider 3 to go out and find them. And let's see, there's really not much else to say gameplay-wise. There's plenty of gunfights, there's a couple vehicle sequences, which are just a straight-line racetrack with a few obstacles and bad guys that are trying to kill you. Nothing really to write home about, but still a nice touch of variety. There's also a few quick-time events, which normally I'd give a game a huge amount of flack for doing this, but in Legend's case, and I don't think I've ever done this before, I'm gonna make an exception. Because the QuickTime events here don't pop up in your face every 5 seconds, they don't require you to constantly mash buttons when they do, and... Oh, wait. Sorry about that, wrong game. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, right. There's only a handful of QuickTime events in this game, like, you could probably count them on one hand. And when one of them does show up, it's 3 easy button presses, nothing more. And really, Tomb Raider Legend is just an awesome return to form, and a return to common sense on top of that. It's little things like following the design philosophy of, hey, we don't have to take the entire first level and turn it into a training level to help players get used to the controls like Tomb Raiders 4, 5, and Angel of Darkness did. We either give them Lara's home, or if they don't want to waste time in Lara's home, we'll just take the first 5 to 10 minutes of the first level and let the players run around at their leisure so they can get used to the controls that way. It's little things like this that make Tomb Raider Legend such a damn good game. I'm not even going to give Legend any flack for its short length, and this is a pretty short game. The first time I played through it, having never experienced it before, I beat it in just under 5.5 hours. Keep in mind though, I didn't actively go after the secrets or any other extras, so I probably missed about 2 more hours of content, but I'm not really a completionist, so that doesn't really matter to me, yet that's still okay. Because I'd much rather play 5 hours of a good game than 10 hours of a mediocre game, and I can happily say Legend is the former. And great gameplay isn't the only thing this game has going for it. The game looks good, it sounds good, the music's good, the voice acting gets the job done reliably, and topping all of this off is a fantastic story. Serving as a reboot of the franchise, the new origin story set forth by Crystal Dynamics does somewhat follow the original outline set forth by Core Design, with Lara's plane crashing in the mountains and her having to survive for a couple weeks before being rescued, except this time instead of being around 21-22, she's a very young child of about 7 or 8. But anyways, Lara's traveling on a plane with her mother, it crashes under mysterious circumstances, Lara and her mother survive miraculously uninjured, and while searching for stuff to make a fire with, Lara accidentally activates a magical gate of some kind that abducts her mother. This experience not only molds and shapes Lara into the badass archaeologist that we know her as today, but also serves as the driving force for the entire trilogy that this story will encompass. Lara is trying to find her mother, or at least find out what happened to her. As far as Legend is concerned, Lara is searching for a mysterious sword artifact later revealed to be Excalibur. Yes, we're going into Arthurian mythology here, which is actually pretty damn cool, to open up another gate to what is revealed to be Avalon, at least told by one of the other characters in the game. And along the way, Lara will encounter some ghosts from her past, a couple new villains, and in general be along for one very emotional ride, as this story does get very emotional at times, to the point that even I felt bad for Lara. Thankfully, Lara doesn't have to face these trials alone, as she's got quite the robust supporting cast behind her. We'll encounter a couple familiar characters, at least those who played the PS1 games will recognize them, and a few new ones as well. And overall, I'd have to say Legend's story is not only very good, but it's a huge improvement over the PS1 games. Now, die-hard Core Design fans love to rip this trilogy apart, saying that it makes Lara look weak or whatever they might have, to which I have to say, guys, it's okay to be a badass and everything, but every badass needs to have a driving force, a reason why they do what they do, and if you ask me, up until this point, Lara really had none. She was just some random rich explorer searching for these long-lost artifacts for reasons X, Y, and Z. There was really no concrete reason as to why she went after them. And that's what I feel this trilogy fixes. It gives Lara a real reason to go after these artifacts, reveals her inner demons, and shows that she's just as human as the next person is. It strengthens her character, even gives her some real character, dare I say. And for the first time in a video game, explores her origin story. I didn't actually know what Core Design's origin story for Lara was until I read it on a website years after I played the games. Now, unfortunately, it's time to talk about the downsides, because Legend does sadly have a few. First one, combat. It's very weak. I can't put my finger down on it 100%. Maybe it's the way the enemies react when they're shot, maybe it's the fact that the bodies still disappear when they die, but I'd have to say the biggest problem here is the act of firing a gun. It lacks any form of real impact. Maybe it's the weak sound effects or the lack of recoil, but it doesn't feel like you're firing an actual gun, it feels like you're firing a pop gun at best. Further compounding this issue is the weapon variety, which, while it's decent, I found myself hardly ever needing any weapon beyond the pistols and the assault rifle. In fact, the only time I ever used the shotgun was on the boss in level 3, And besides that, the only time I can recall myself ever using anything beyond the pistols and assault rifle is when I was out of ammo for the rifle and the pistols were no good against whatever I was fighting. I didn't even need to use the grenades that you can now throw because most of the time the enemies would just dodge them. Back in the PS1 days, more specifically Tomb Raider 2, every weapon felt distinct and unique from one another. Each had a specific advantage and drawback. Different situations called for different weapons, and all of the weapons felt powerful in their own right, because it also felt like you were actually shooting something. And that was completely absent from Legend. It also doesn't help that you can only carry the pistols and one other weapon. You can't carry every gun like you could back in the PS1 days, and even Angel of Darkness had this feature. Thankfully, the limited medkit and ammo carrying capacity doesn't hurt you that much, because most of the enemies will drop a medkit when they die, and almost every one of them will drop their weapon when they die, giving you an extra full clip to add to your inventory. Unfortunately, though, this can't save the very subpar combat, which also leads me into my next problem, the camera. It behaves well enough when you're out in the open, but if you're fighting someone in a tight corridor, expect the camera to behave only when it wants to, and this is displayed most prominently in the final boss battle, where there's destroyed walls and pillars all around you, and the camera constantly backs right up into Lara to the point where you can't see when the enemy's going to make a move at you. Not only that, but since you're constantly knocking into these waist-high ledges and walls, you can't exactly move around that well either. The last downside that I need to talk about is the technical issues with this game, and I feel that this is the most important out of all the downsides, because I could live with everything else. I can live with the weak combat, because combat's not exactly a very large part of this game, and the camera only really rears its ugly head during the last boss fight, but this one was more than just a minor annoyance. Now, Legend was released across an absolutely stupefying 9 platforms, though they weren't all released at the same time. With the exception of the PS3 port, they were all released at different points in 2006, with the PS3 port being released in March of 2011. Now, I've only played these 3 ports, so I can't speak for the other 6, but from what I have played out of these 3, neither console can hold a steady frame rate. The game takes very noticeable dips in areas that don't even look like it should be taxing either the engine or the hardware all that much. It doesn't make the game unplayable, but for someone like me, it's very noticeable and very distracting. So you might think, oh well, guess you made the right choice playing it on the computer, right? And for the first 4 levels I did, yes. However, in the last 4 levels, at completely random moments, watch this. This happens at completely random intervals during the last 4 levels. I have been able to play through certain parts of the level before this happens, but it always happens. I have not been able to find a fix for this. As far as I can tell, Crystal Dynamics has not released any official patch. There are no mod kits out there, so we can make our own patches to fix this. I have experienced this on both AMD and Nvidia cards, including my new rig that I just got last June, which, by the way, can run Crysis 3 maxed out at 1080p with no problems. The only way I was able to stop this from happening was to turn the next generation content off, which, the game still looks okay. But tell me, would you rather play Legend with it looking like this, or like this? I really, really wish Crystal Dynamics would re-release the Legend trilogy in some kind of remastered format, so I could hopefully play through Legend without this happening, because either way you look at it, no matter what platform you play on, these technical issues are completely unacceptable. One last little gripe that I have against the PC version in particular is during the bike chases. The bike is controlled entirely by the left analog stick. Unlike the console ports where you push X or A to accelerate the bike and then steer it with the left analog stick, on the PC port, you have to push the left analog stick forward in order to accelerate the bike. So you constantly have to hold the left analog stick forward and use it to steer the bike at the same time. Yeah, it's as awkward as it sounds, and it resulted in quite a few cheap deaths for me, as the controls were either too spazzy or too sluggish, and I ended up smacking into a wall quite a few times. Now, Legend was released before games for Windows came along and truly unified the 360 controller with the computer, which is why you saw arrows instead of button prompts when the QuickTime event footage played, but still, hey, Crystal Dynamics, Legacy Patch, development kit so I can make my own? Anything? No? Okay, fine, whatever. What the fuck do I know, right? That being said, I'm probably just being too nitpicky because I would still highly, highly recommend Legend. It's an awesome return to form, it's a ton of fun to play, and even if you're not a fan of the Tomb Raider franchise, if you're just looking for a decent action-adventure game, by all means, pick this one up.